Welcome everybody to Viata's Tiny House Village. I'm Viata, your host for tonight. We have a great show lined up for you, but we are now live in the Blog Talk Radio studio. So, as always, we want to welcome our global family because this is a global platform. We have friends and cousins and uncles and aunts, mothers, fathers all over the universe planet of Earth. So we love to welcome them, and we have this great video. So I'm going to share this with you. And when we come back, we will be drumming in with Becky.
Women have the power to transform this world. We can end crime and violence if we all agree to do one thing: share. Let's share our wisdom, share our time, share our talents, share our finances, but most of all, let's share our love. This is the Female Solution. Join me, Naima Latif, every morning, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, as we bring you stimulating discussions about the issues affecting our lives. If you're listening online at www.blogtalkradio.com/the-female-solution, press the blue button that says follow and get our daily topics every morning directly to your email and your smartphone. Hi, I'm Naima Latif, executive producer of the Female Solution radio show. We invite you to call in 515-605-9325 and participate in this daily think tank as we examine the challenges we face and develop solutions that restore peace and harmony. We are global transformers, changing the world from the way it is to the way it should be. We are one. Wherever we live on this earth, we are one human family. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to extend a greeting to all the members of our family, whenever and wherever you may be listening around the world. To our family in China, Ni Hao. In India, Namaste. In Japan, Konnichiwa. In Korea, Annyeonghaseyo. In Russia, Здравствуйте. In Germany, Guten Tag. In Poland, Dzień dobry. In France, Bonjour. In Spain, Hola. In Italy, Ciao. In Egypt, Ahlan wa sahlan. In Ghana, Akwaba. In Nigeria, Peleo. In South Africa, Sawubona. In Senegal, Nangadek. In Kenya, Jambo. In Israel, Shalom. In Pakistan, Afghanistan, Palestine, and Saudi Arabia, Assalamu alaikum. Greetings, and may peace be upon you all. Join us live on the on-air radio network called 727-731-5192. We want to talk to you.
Yes, we do. And I'm so excited. My guest is in the house. She's in the green room. Hey there, Eva. And I'm going to bring her on as soon as we finish our drumming. We drum every Sunday night. We bring out our drums. So, Eva, if you got a drum along with us. And we're going to be so excited to talk with, I think she's a Generation X, I believe. So we're excited. But let me say hello to Empress Regina. Royalty is in the house. You are marvelous, beloved, she says. And we bow to Empress because our family is nothing but royalty. And we've even got John Harris in the house. Hey, John, nice to see you there. And you're royalty too. Anybody who shows up tonight, you're royalty. So we bow to King John Harris and welcome you. And so, everybody get your drums. We want to drum in and invite our ancestors in because we always want a spirit of truth, wisdom, and love with us every Sunday night. Soul Purpose Healing is all about life. So, this is Becca Shea. She's a beautiful, beautiful Christian artist. She brings in a Native American beat and drum, and I got my drum here, and we're going to spend a few minutes just welcoming and inviting unity, unity, unity. So here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go, here we get your drums out. Let's go. And let's let us run some people for time. Hey. From every tribe and language, people, every nation. Hey. Well, warriors are falling, there's a resurrection coming. If your light rise and shine, wake up, you sleeping giant. Hey, hey. Bringing the power through unity. Well, we have to find the resurrection coming. Travel, travel, come by. Yeah, wake up, you sleeping giant. I feel it, I feel it, I feel it. I feel it, I feel it, I feel it. I feel it, I feel it, I feel it. I feel it, I feel it, I feel it. Bring us together, bring us together. We cry, bring us together, bring us together. We cry, bring us together, bring us together. We cry out real happy, happy, oh. Your heartbeat, this is the hour to know whose side to stand by. Raise up, standard in battle for every fellow tribe. Our warriors are fighting, there's a revival igniting. Yeah, a blazing fire. Stand firm and listen to your destiny. Hey. The rhythm of our Father moves with victory. Hey. Well, warriors are fighting, there's a revival igniting. Come on, so fast and don't blazing fire. Your heart behind you. Your heart behind you. Your heart behind you. Your heart behind you. I feel it, I feel it, I feel it. Bring us together, bring us together. We cry. Bring us together, bring us together. We cry. Bring us together, bring us together. We cry out real happy, happy, oh. Your heartbeat. Yeshua, bring us together, bring us together. We cry. Yeshua, bring us together, bring us together. We cry. Yeshua, bring us together, bring us together. We cry out real happy, happy, oh. Your heartbeat. Yeshua, bring us together, bring us together. We cry. Yeshua, bring us together, bring us together. We cry. Yeshua, bring us together, bring us together. We cry out real happy, happy, oh. Your heartbeat. Hallelujah. Woohoo. Aho, aho, aho. Woo. All right, right. We are ready, 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 revved up here. And for those of you who are new to Blog Talk Radio, Soul Purpose Healing, Yeshua is the spirit of truth. Yeshua is the Hebrew Aramaic name for Jesus, some call Jesus, but for me and those who are conscious, we know this Yeshua energy is the spirit of truth. So we welcome the spirit of truth tonight. And we also welcome, let's see, we got some more people. NDB sing Spice from Marin. All right. More queens in the house. And John says, hi, thank you. And the female solution, I feel the rhythm of the drum. Yes, yes, yes. That's what it's here for. The drums. We want you to feel that rhythm of the heartbeat of our creator, the universe, the heartbeat of the universe. And so now we want to welcome, we have a very special guest tonight. I'm going to bring my guest on. Eve, is it, do you want to, Eve, welcome Eve. I'm going to call you Eve. And how do you want us to call your name? Go ahead. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Are you on mute? Eve is on the screen, and we've got
Yes, can you
a
hear me?
mic.
Yeah. Can you?
Yes, that's better.
Is there a lot of background noise?
A little bit, yes.
Is it overwhelming? I might need to leave where I'm at. Is it overwhelming?
Well, we can hear you pretty loud. Just
Okay.
keep talking. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go
Yeah.
ahead and
Um. Hi.
introduce yourself and tell our audience a little bit about you.
Okay. So, well, my birth name is Margarita, and I've gone through a kind of a healing journey, and in there, my name EVEIMAI came, and so if anyone would like to call me Eve, that's really nice too. And it's easy, it's smooth, and so that's okay.
So, Margarita or Eve, tell us where you were born and what was your early childhood like?
Oh, that's okay. So I was born in Idaho, and I grew up in Idaho and in Oregon mostly, but I've traveled around a lot. And my parents were divorced and separated, so I had the step family dynamics.
Did you have siblings?
Yes, I have two brothers and I have four stepsisters.
So, how would you describe your childhood, your upbringing? Was it healthy, or did you have some unhealthy relationships?
Yeah, so there was healthy and unhealthy relationships. Um, my On my mother's side, we're Cherokee, Deer Clan, and French. So we have European and we have Indigenous. And on my father's side, we also have Spanish from Spain and also Native from Mexico, from the Tepehuano tribe. And there's generational trauma that has taken place in my family through the generations, and I can see how it sets within the different members of our family today. So there was unhealthy and there was healthy. And so it's been a process to work through those generational traumas.
Now, you told me about your children, and that I think was the hardest or the most difficult experience that a person can go through. Not just the death of one child, but when you have to bury two children, that's exceptionally or extremely hard to go through. So, tell us about why did you? So, first of all, your children's father. How did you meet your children's father? And how did that relationship go for you as a young woman, I assume? And how did it end or not?
Well, my first son, I had him when I was 14. So I was a teen mother.
Okay.
And so that was not really an ideal situation, right?
Of course.
It wasn't an ideal relationship because we were teenagers. So that didn't work very well, and I wasn't supported, and I was just there was a lot of dynamics going on there.
So were you able to raise your son for a little bit while?
Yeah, for a little while. This is kind of that dynamic was a little bit difficult because I was young, and because I was young, there wasn't a confidence that I could raise him. Even though I did put all of my love and my effort into my son, um, there was a lot of conflict with my mother and my stepfather. They wanted to have children, they couldn't have children, and so when I was pregnant with my son, my mother would wear maternity clothes and say that she was expecting. So there was, yeah. So this is kind of a difficult situation because instead of being supported, there was always this conflict, like them trying to take my child. They did take him legally the first time, but then I got him back, and after I got him back, it was a devastation for my mother. She wanted him, and my stepfather, he was a state trooper, and he was a city police officer, and he had a lot of pull. He had a lot of connections, and so they used those connections and the friendship within these different arenas of the law to be able to get what they wanted. So they went to their friends that were working within the state welfare, and they said they wanted him and to take him. So they illegally seized my son and they put him into a foster home where and it was illegal. No paper, or there's no paper sign, no court order, no proof of neglect or abuse or anything. And he was placed in this foster home and where he wasn't watched. So I remind you, he was 2 years old. A 2 year old is very curious and likes to run. They're not scared of anything. So he went out into the pasture and he pet the horse's back of his foot. And they had dogs that would bite the horse's feet. So the horse would always kick at the dogs. So when he pet the horse thought that it was one of the dogs. So the horse kicked him in the head and he flew 8 feet and hit the garage. So then he fell to the ground, and what happened was it caused his brain to go like this, like a shaken baby syndrome, and he went into a coma, and he was in that coma for 3.5 months. When he woke up from that coma, he was in a vegetative state, and so he was in a rehabilitation center where I learned to do his physical therapy, his range of motion, how to stomach feed him because he couldn't walk, he couldn't talk, he couldn't eat, he couldn't do anything. Um, Again, he was about to get out of the rehabilitation center. So the people that my mother and stepfather were connected with, they called me and said, "Oh, we hear your son's about to leave, and you need to find a legal place to live," because I was still a teenager. I was 17. And if not, we're going to put you in a foster home and send him to be adopted out. You'll never see him again. So the only way that I could keep him was to get emancipated and to get married. Well,
Now,
so
did
this,
you marry his father, or where was your?
no, his father wasn't around in this process. I was completely on my own through it.
But you
Um,
were living with your parents?
no, I was living in foster homes, or I was living in group homes, or I was going back and forth between parents, or I was living homeless.
With your child?
No, not ever with my child.
Oh, your child was with your mom.
Yeah, he was in foster home or he was with my mother. There was a lot of dynamics going on there. Um, so when the state found out that I was suing them, then they started pursuing me. They were watching me. They were coming and harassing me and all kinds of things. So Eventually, they ended up coming in and they took him by force and they gave him to my mother. So from there, she didn't do. There was no physical therapy done anymore. No range of motions. None of his standing table. None of the things that he needed in order to get better was being done, and he wasn't getting fed the way he should have been or bathed the way he should have been. And he started to just kind of curl up just to change his diaper would break his hip. So he had many hip where he had to get his hips fused together with metal plates, and he started curling. So he got a 90-degree curvature of the spine, and it crushed his internal organs, and he went to massive organ failure.
So he died at what age?
16.
Oh, he lived that long though.
Yeah, so for 14 years he was in this state.
Now, let me ask you, Eve, what was your religious background from the time you were a child? Because when a woman goes through that type of challenge and stress, let's just say stress, what was your religion? Were you prepared for that spiritually?
Well, um, it was kind of complicated because on my mother's side we're Jehovah's Witness, on my father's side we're Catholic, on my step family side was Mormon, and then we had the native traditions as well.
Wow, what a mixture of religious I don't know how to describe what a mixture of religion. Let's just say
Yes,
that. So
yes.
no spirituality in your experience at an early
Well,
age.
I did have spirituality, but I didn't have adults and people in my life that were actually there and stable and just kind of guiding me. I was guided a little bit more when I was a child. My mother would go to work, and my grandfather, he would watch me, and he would talk to me about our people, about our traditions, being Cherokee, and also he taught me a lot about Jehovah's Witnesses.
Okay, so your grandfather was Cherokee.
Yes,
So he taught you more about Native American tradition.
yeah,
Prayers. Did you learn any prayers from your grandfather?
yeah. I learned some different prayers and some different songs and some different things, but he kind of did it on the lowdown because he was a Jehovah's Witness elder.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So having a child takes you into a whole nother class, and your experience is so unique from most of the average mother that you had a lot of lessons to learn, right? That's a
Oh
first
yeah,
time mother. Now you said you married after a period of time while your son was going through this medical challenge.
yes.
So how was your husband? Was he supportive?
Well, he was in a quadriplegic state. He had dived off an 18-foot dive into not very much water, and he broke his neck.
Now
So
was this all in Oregon?
this was in Idaho.
Idaho. Okay.
Idaho.
Okay. So did your husband how long did your husband live?
Um, well, we had issues because there after going through the breaking his neck. Um, he was in a quadriplegic state and he couldn't do much, and so I did a lot of his care for him, most of his care. So I was taking care of him and taking care of my son, and there was some different issues about insecurities and things like this. So this is when I left him, and then that's when the state came in because I was still a minor. Um,
Oh, oh.
yeah, when I left him, and so he ended up living a few more years after that, and then he passed away.
So how old were you when your husband passed?
I think I was about maybe 21, 22, or something like that.
Okay, that's a lot to learn. A lot of lessons, hard lessons for you from 14 to 21. Your son goes into a coma. Your husband has becomes a paraplegic, and then so it's really amazing that you can even sit here and smile after experiencing all that. But that's why we're talking about healing wisdom with you, because you have gone through a lot of stressful situations, and we want to hear how you have overcome that. So we're going to, I'm going to take a break. And maybe while we're on a break, can you maybe find a quieter place, because it is
Yeah,
a little bit distracting.
yeah. Sorry about that.
Don't apologize, sweetheart. We're just glad you're here. And we want to, because Eva is Generation X, I'm really excited because I'm a baby boomer, and I love to bring in the youthful persons in my journey to understand and to help you. There are a lot of people on this line who are baby boomers or generation, what will we say, Z or whatever. No, not Z. They would be Generation Y. So we want to give you, I'm going to take a break, and I'm going to give you a chance to maybe find a quieter place while we're on the break. Okay, is that okay?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So everybody, thank you for joining us. This story gets better. And I want all of you to share in your wisdom tonight. If as Eva tells her story, um, we want to encourage her because she was born in 1979, making her Generation X. And so she's only 45. And I'm just really honored to have her willing to tell her story. It's very tragic. As you've already heard, be 14 pregnant, your son has a goes into a coma. You're fighting your parents over the welfare, the care of that child, and then you marry your son's a paraplegic, and then your son dies before. I mean, your husband dies before you're 21, and you're going to hear all the other deaths that she had to experience. That for most people they wouldn't even survive. But let me take a break. And when we come back, we're going to bring Eva back on, hopefully in a quieter place, because she did have a little bit of background noise. And we want to hear her full story, because I think we'll all be blessed when we hear her story and how she has overcome, because it could happen to any of us, even in a later age. And we just want to, at this point, we want to encourage her and any other young generations from those of us who have been through a lot ourselves and who have survived. All of you here have survived whatever you needed to go through. So let's just be ready to add to the survival and the wisdom to overcome. But let's take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Ever wondered why some of the healthiest people still get sick? Or why the occurrence of learning disabilities like ADHD have drastically increased over the last 50 years? How is it that the cancer rate has gone from 1 in 8,000 back in the 1910s to 1 in 2 today? Isn't it odd that even though we are more focused on health than ever before, that there's still been an increase in diseases, disorders, illnesses, and other conditions that destroy your quality of life? What if we told you that the very things you're using in your home to avoid these health concerns are actually what's causing them? If you're the decision maker in your home, you know how overwhelming it can be to keep your family safe. Today, we'd like to welcome you and simply provide you with some important information and shed some light on some health concerns you may not be aware of. thousands of toxic chemicals have been introduced into society because warfare in the Second World War. Today, as the 2013 documentary The Human Experiment states, quote, 42 billion pounds of toxic chemicals enter into commerce every day. That amount would fill up 623,000 tanker trucks. And as we speak, there are over 80,000 such chemicals on the market in the US. Over the last half century, chemical usage has gone up by 2,000%. And it isn't until there are enough people hurt by these products that there are even questions raised. Does this sound familiar? On July 12, 2018, the well-known grocery store brand of talcum and baby powder company, Johnson & Johnson, was ordered to pay a $4.6 billion lawsuit. As it was said, they knowingly covered up asbestos in their product for over 40 years, and we have been trustingly using it on ourselves and our most precious of all things, our newborn babies. As parents, we work hard to keep our families safe and healthy. We diligently try to choose the best brands at the grocery store for our families. After all, keeping a clean home is an important part of good health. But is it possible that cleaning your home is dangerous?
So that's a little bit of information about Melaleuca Company, which is a company I have partnered with to educate and to provide my clients and my listeners with a company that is conscious about providing non-toxic products and cleaner and more efficient and safe products. So in the chat, I've put melaleuca.com. I encourage all of you to check out melaleuca.com for the really good products that they offer. And then consider becoming a partner in my buying club so that we can do a better job of taking charge of our health. And that means being more careful about the environment we live in, keeping that non-toxic as well as keeping this body toxic. And we're going to go back to Eva. Oh, what a nice background there. So, Eva, can you hear me?
Yes.
And we can hear you. Okay, you're all settled?
Yes.
Okay, so Eva, thank you so much for sharing your journey. And I know it's been challenging, but I truly, truly believe that when you share your journey, other people will be blessed to know that you can overcome anything. Because what you have overcome is great, gigantic. And so we want to continue to ask you to share. To your 21 years old, your husband has passed. Your son is how old? Your son is 14. Let's see, he's
Well,
8 years. 7.
it was a little bit more. So when I left him when I was 17. So after that, I didn't see him anymore.
Oh,
Because there was that abusive factor because of insecurities, because of his physical state. And so I didn't see him after that. But I had gone on. That's when I had my son, my second son, his father. So I was with him. I had a son and a daughter with him. And so I had my son. So I'm gonna be really raw and honest because
oh,
that's
if
just
you
my
can,
story. It's my
yeah, if you
story, and I love myself, and so I don't feel ashamed. But I did
great,
have a lot of trauma growing up, and I did have a lot of things to overcome. And so I
yeah,
was a teenage mother, and I did make mistakes, and that's okay. That was part of my learning.
absolutely.
And so I had my second son when I was 18, and my daughter when I was 19. So I had 3 children by the time I was 19. And so that's where I was then. And it was my second son. He was the second one who passed, because after my first son passed, he took that really hard. And so then he started getting into drugs and doing different things and getting with the wrong people. And because of the generational trauma, we don't have such a healthy family. But it doesn't mean that we don't love each other. It doesn't mean any of that. But we just all have trauma.
Of
And
course.
until we take the time to address our traumas, until we take the time to address, who we are on the inside, what motivates us, what moves us, then we don't know. We don't know what's going on inside, and we're going off of subconscious programming. And so um, when this happens, we just have dysfunction, and it's just going to continue, and it presents itself in every one of our family members in a different way. And so um, with my son, he started having an issue, um, and he went into rehab, and he went into a boys' home so that he could address his issue.
This
And
was
then
your
he went,
second.
my second son, yes, because he took it hard when my first son passed. That was his
Right,
brother.
right.
And my mother's cousin is the number one suspect in his death. However, the investigation um, is not being fruitful. There, I'm not getting any response from the detective or anything. So, but what had happened was they had somehow he got 8,900 milliliters of methadone into his system, which is bath salts, and he drank it through his Arizona tea that he was drinking, and it started dissolving his internal organs, and he died a very painful death. And when he was in there, when he started to he started screaming, and he started asking for help, and he started crying out in pain. And this went on from 4 in the morning till about 7:30 in the morning. But the neighbors had said that when he had started his cries, that the people inside the apartment turned up the music to drown out his cries. So he was just left in there suffering to die. So, and he passed away at the age of 16.
And you said they both were four. They were born 4 years apart, and they died 4 years apart, right?
Yes.
Did you reflect on that synchronicity or the number, the numerology of that, and how
Yeah.
did you start to think about that?
Well, there's a lot of, it's even more than that when I've looked at all of the different numbers and all of the things. And it wasn't that I was looking for them, but they just were very apparent.
In your face, kind
And
of, right?
yeah, in my face. I mean, 16, 4 times 4 is 16. They were
Right,
born 4 years apart, they died 4 years apart, but there's so many more numbers. Like I can go on forever about the number synchronicities in this situation.
right, right. And that's when you start to grow, right? Spiritually.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah.
when my son died, my second son, because my first son, I fought for many years for him. I fought, and in all kinds of ways, I was trying to advocate for him and be there for him, but it was not a very easy situation. I was coming up against a lot of adversity, and when he passed, it was actually kind of relieving because he was no longer in pain, because he was in extreme pain for 14 years, and um, it wasn't it wasn't it wasn't nice to see. It wasn't nice to watch or be witness of. And so when my second son died, and the way he died, it was devastating. And like I said, I made mistakes growing up, and so I'm not gonna pretend to be perfect. I'm not gonna pretend that I never made mistakes, because that's just not the fact of it. And I did have some drug use when I was younger.
Honey,
And
listen, hey, Eva, we all did, honey. Let's
yeah.
let's just be in unity about that. You don't want to
Yeah.
hear my drug use story. In fact, let me just share one thing with you. I was talking to a friend of mine recently about how promiscuous we were in our youth. And I have no guilt whatsoever. I don't regret I don't say I don't regret a damn thing, because as you grow spiritually, you realize the divine order of your
Yes.
life. And see, I came, and I hope this is where you came to the conclusion too, that the Most High allows the promiscuity, the drug use, the craziness. And then when you survive it all, you're like, wow, how did this even happen? And then that's when you go into a closer relationship with your creator. That's been my journey. And I'm speaking from experience, honey. I have done
Yes.
it all. Cocaine, freebase, I did it all of it. People are shocked. Oh, not you. Yes, I loved it time, but now done, done that, did that, don't have any desire whatsoever to do any of the strange, crazy thing. So no regrets, right? We don't
Right.
forget
Well, in
we
that
need to.
time, sorry.
No, go ahead, go ahead. I just had to. I
Well,
want you to have comfort and peace about where you are right now.
thank you. I really appreciate that because
You're
when my
welcome.
son died and the way he died, that was one of the things, one of because I had many, guilts and regrets and things like that. And I was like, what was in me? What was my part to play in the death of my children?
Yeah, guilt, guilt, guilt,
Yes,
shame,
yes,
shame, shame. Yeah, and the Catholic
exactly. And
Church.
so,
Oh, listen, all those religions you name, they put the guilt and shame on you for a long time, and then you have. That's why you have to leave the religious
yes,
attitudes and minds, because you don't need the guilt and shame anymore. Not
exactly,
with.
exactly. Um, and I'm so glad that I went through this experience because it helped me find the true God for reals, not the religious God, but the true God.
Yes.
And but one of the things that really ate me up when he died was how many times did I come close to death myself with overdosing and things like this? And I survived, but he didn't. I can still walk, I can still have shoes today, and he cannot walk. And there were many things that went over my mind, many things. Or I can eat and he can't, just so many things. But there was this one experience that I had when I was just so full of remorse and regret and things like this. And I was crying and I was crying and I was crying and I was saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Please, I'm so sorry." And all of it, and I was pacing back and forth in the hallway. And then all of a sudden, everything went black. And in that blackness, I saw his silhouette and he was running and he was anxious and he was nervous and um, he was just like confused. Where am I? What's going on? And this went along for 3 days after his death. And then after the third day, he lay down in the darkness and he
Mm.
took in 3 deep breaths and exhaled. And at the very last exhale, when all of the breath went out of his lungs, all of the knowledge of all of creation and existence from the beginning of time came into him, and he knew the why behind everything. And then he stood up next to me and he said, "Here, there's no need for a sorrow. There's no need for forgiveness. There's no need for I'm sorry and forgive me." He said, "The only thing that exists here is pure and unconditional love, and that's it." He said, "I know the why behind everything, and that's all that exists. It's just love."
Beautiful. That's so beautiful. And it's something about the number three in transition situations, because my sister took 3 breaths at 3 p.m. in the afternoon in room B3, and she left her body. I wasn't there, but that's what the witnesses told me. 3 breaths, 3 p.m., room B3. Her name was Trian, which means 3 in 1. So when you have that three show up, it's like, oh, you got my attention. It's like attention, attention. Number three is an attention getter in my experience. And you just shared how he manifested 3 breaths. Wow.
Three
Three.
breaths, 3 days. Yeah.
So that's pretty powerful. Now you had to go into what they would probably call a dark night of the soul.
Oh, yeah. I died. My soul and everything left.
And what
And
was that like for you?
oh, well, it was like, like a fog, like looking around, you don't see anything. You can see shapes and things, but everything is in a fog. So I couldn't drive because I couldn't see. I could see that there were things, but I could only see a fog. So I couldn't drive. I could hear that there were whispers, people maybe talking, but I couldn't make out what they were saying. I couldn't hear them. I knew they were talking, but I couldn't hear. I wasn't here. I was in a totally different place. There was this one, who was it? Billy Crystal. It was, I think, called The Last Sunday. And he talks about the other. And with the way that he described the other is exactly what I felt. I was in the other.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, it was just being dead. I ended up dying because what happened was I looked up in the sky. It was a blue sky that day, and there was a little bit of clouds, and there was some trees around, and it was beautiful. And I looked up in the sky and I said, why? I asked God, I said, why? Why is it that I can go through these things and still be okay? Why have I gone through so many of these things and still be okay? And in that moment is the moment that I chose to eat the forbidden fruit, and I chose to die that day.
Hmm.
And in that day was the beginning of my journey to find the God within, to find the true God without. So
Wow.
before, maybe I was disconnected from God because God was outside of me. But
Yeah.
in that day and the journey I began, I found the true God who is connected to all of us, who lives within all of us.
Well, that is such a profound statement, to say you found the creator within and not the one without, because we'll see all the religious teachings that you and I receive as children, the creator's out there, right? You don't, I mean, did you as a child ever think that the creator was inside of you?
Well, I did. Here's the thing, because I had this natural knowing, and I would look around and I would see there's something wrong. What is wrong with these people? They don't know, or what is wrong they feel is right, and what is right they feel is wrong, and they act accordingly. And then they punish me for doing what is right. But I know in my heart I'm guided by spirit, and I know this is right. So I could always see, like I could look up in the sky and I could see there's a presence there. There's a knowing there. It's in everything and it's everywhere. And probably too because my grandfather gave me teachings as well. And then also when I was a teenager and I was going through those, drug addictions or drug use, and I went into rehab and things like that. When I got out, I would go to sweat lodge ceremonies every Sunday in the Fort Hall Indian Reservation, the Shoshone Bannock. And I would go every Sunday. And so I had good connection that way. And I think that a lot of that, when I look back through my life and I look back through the ability to just kind of be able to be, how do you call that? Um, what is that word? Where you're resilient by, I was able to be resilient, I think, because one, I had, and I know a lot of people, maybe they don't believe in the AA teachings or things like that, but what it is I feel into things and I feel what's right. And so there's different things in there that I could take and I could use and that could help me. So there was that, and then there was the native teachings that I had from my grandfather and from the ceremonies and the different things that I was doing with the tribe. And those seem to have been things that carried me through because they kept my connection. They kept me grounded to myself. They kept me grounded to that inner knowing. They kept me grounded to those things. So then when my son died, after I had resigned to maybe try and be part of this world, because for some reason my way wasn't the right way, um and I resigned to, after my son died, then I just, everything went away. All of that conditioning, all of those all of those all of those mystical thinking ways that kept me from being connected to myself, the things that kept me from being connected to the true source, they all fell away, and it just came all back to me. And so when I looked back, I was like, wow, I think that those foundational pieces were really what kept me going.
Absolutely. We've got a couple of comments that I'd like to share with you. Noelle Paulette says, loving and appreciating Eva Mai. Is it Eva? Okay. Do you know Noelle at all?
Yes, I do. She's a lovely, lovely, lovely woman. I love her. She's so beautiful. She's
Thank
been
you.
an integral person also in my journey.
Wonderful. Thank you, Noelle, for showing up and being a support for Eve. And then John Harris says, really proud of you, Eve. Do you know John?
Yes, I do. He's a great friend as well.
Right. You've
Thank
got a
you.
lot of friends, queens, and kings here. And HLN TV is our Monday morning female solution host, Zelda. She says, grand evening, bodacious, beautiful sisters. Thanks for sharing such truths. Awaken. Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Zelda.
Thank
And
you.
Naima Latif is our executive producer for the Female Solution. She says the only way we learn in this earth school is to experience things. The creator of the universe does not judge or punish, but allows learning for the purpose of spiritual growth. How do you feel about that statement, Eve?
Oh, I feel that statement is 100% living and alive, because through my journey, because what happened was, as my son died, all of these different things started coming back to me, blockages that I had, because the trauma of losing my son was much more than traumas that I had blocked in from my childhood. And there were experiences that I didn't even know existed within my experience. And so things started coming up one by one. And at first I wanted to, no, I don't see them. I don't see them. But I made myself look. No, you have to look. I made myself face every single thing that came up about myself, about my childhood, about people, about everything. And by being able to process through that, and I have some steps that I take to be able to process those. I have a certain order of steps. And by being able to do that every time, it became easier. And through that process, I was able to realize, and I was shown, that we're all under the covenant of grace. It's grace, and that's all there is. There's love and grace, and that's it. And so it gave a certain freedom of curious exploration in kind of a scientific method to life, where I was able to kind of be in a laboratory of life and
Mhm.
experience. This didn't work, so let me try this way. Oh, well, that way didn't work, so let me try this other way. And I didn't have any guilt, and I didn't feel any failure. And it just became fun, because I got to explore.
Absolutely. And Craig Van says, as a bereaved parent, I can identify with all she said. When my sister passed, my dad said he never expected, or he said, he was speaking in a general term, you never expect to bury your child. So that is the reality that hits you in the face when they're no longer around, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how much did you reflect on the fact that you will never see your children again? How did you process that thought about I never expected to bury my own children? So what kind of process did you go through?
Oh, well, so when my first son, when he was kicked in the head by a horse, um, that's when I learned that from one moment to the next, everything can change. And so I learned to appreciate life. I learned to appreciate the people that are in my life. I learned to appreciate my experiences and things. But when my second son died, I didn't expect it. It was out of the blue. Well, kind of.
Yeah,
I worried
kind
about it. I worried
yeah,
about it.
right.
And I kind of innately had a sense that there might be something that.
Okay, you're frozen. Uh, you're frozen. We
Okay.
can't hear. We can't hear you.
Um, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Go on. Okay, we can see you now. You're sort of. Let me read a comment here. Indy B Singh says, "You have a powerful testimony to share to empower other little sisters to make it out of traumatic situations." So you're back.
Yes.
Did you hear that comment?
Yes, I did. Yes. Thank you. And that's ultimately what I want to do, because what I found, so I went through this process. It was a traumatic process, and it was a very hard process of where my soul left. My mind left, and the only thing that was left was my body. And I was in this deep, dark abyss, and I had to crawl my way out by just my nails and my teeth and and it wasn't easy, but I did. And it seemed to be like a natural process. I just followed the spirit. I just followed how I was guided. And I had later read this book. It's called The Toltec Path to Recapitulation.
Hmm.
And when I read that book, I realized, wow, this is what I went through. Where what happens is our body has this consciousness. And when our body is sick, it heals itself. So when we go into these deep, dark depressions, our body is what decides to heal us and bring us back. So my body started making the movements to heal myself and bring my soul back. And so that's what this book explains. And I know that it's explaining it correctly because I went through it in an experiential way. And then there's different processes that it talks about, because the person who wrote this book also does retreats. And there's these different modalities, these different healing modalities that they do within these retreats. And I know that they're using the Toltec knowledge because I'm a dancer. I danzante mexica. So people call that an Aztec dancer. But so anyways, in within that within that world, we study the sunstone, and we study the cycles and the energies. We study the sunstone, and we study the calendar, which is the calendar. So there's different ceremonies that we do, and there's this one is Chilancalco, which is it's 4 days, 4 nights, no food, no water, no excuse me, no no lights, no sound. So it's like a deprivation. So you go out of your body and you go into your soul and you communicate to yourself, and you communicate in that way. You connect in that way. So there's, and you do this once a year for 4 consecutive years. Well, the modality that they're describing in this book, it's a modified version of that
You're frozen again. Can you hear me?
it's not so intensive as the original ceremony, but it's a modified version.
Now, let me ask you a question. How did you know your body was being healed in this process? What were your feelings physically as you were
Well,
saying your body was being healed?
well, because I became very attuned with my body. I spent a lot of time in isolation. I isolated 5 years, and I spent a lot of time in the dark. I spent a lot of time sleeping. I spent a lot of time with nature. I spent a lot of time dancing. I spent a lot of time just listening. I did 40 days of silence. I was just kind of inspired to do 40 days of silence. And
Which
in
is
that
something
time,
they do in India. People travel all the way to India to do 40 days of silence. As if you can't do it in the United States.
well, I did it in my house. I did
Yeah.
it at my home, and my family was really amazing. My children, my husband was really amazing with that because I meditated a lot, and
Now, when you say meditated, you were just in silence, or you were doing yoga or breathing? What's your
yeah, I was in
meditation?
silence. I did all kinds of meditations, but not. I didn't know what meditation was in that way. You know,
Yeah,
as far as people do all of these other meditations.
you're frozen again. We've got who's this? You have participant. Okay, I guess you'll just have to keep moving to get a good signal.
Yeah. So I was just naturally drawn to do these things. I didn't actually kind of know about them, but it's like my body, my DNA knowledge just kind of woke up and said, okay, we're going this way. And so I just started listening, and I just started surrendering and obeying that. And so my meditations, I did a lot of silence. I did a lot of in the dark, or I did walking meditations. I connected with the plants. I connected with the sky, with the fire, with the water.
This is a true personal testimony for Eve about how to come back to life.
It, yes, my body was coming. My body was coming back to life, because what I saw in one of my meditations.
I hope you can get a good signal because we can't hear you right now. And let's see, we've got I don't know how to pronounce this. Krishna Fitch. Krishna Fitch, can you share your steps, or do you teach those? Some friends who struggle with grief could benefit. So I hope Miss Fitch, I'll just say Miss Fitch because I don't know if I'm saying Krishna. Do you know Krishna Fitch? Eve, do you know who Krishna Fitch is? Can you hear me?
Okay, what was that?
Do you know who Krishna Fitch
Yes,
is?
yes,
Okay.
I do.
Did I pronounce her name right?
Krishna Fitch. Yeah.
She asked, can you share your steps, or do you
Yeah.
keep some friends who struggle with grief could benefit? So you are indeed sharing your steps. So go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I think if maybe can give my contact information and I can share those steps, unless we have time later.
Yes.
Or I can because it kind of goes in depth, and so I can walk somebody through different things, but it would be kind of like a case by case, individual,
Right.
and just walk through those steps.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Are you sure? You're welcome to give your contact information at this point, and we can continue with your story.
Well, I have, you could probably do the email. So the email is beyondyourimpossible@gmail.com.
I'll put that in the chat. So go ahead.
Yeah, so I just started listening to my body, and it just started moving me through the steps and guiding me through.
Yes. So listen, we're going to take a commercial. If Naima Latif, my executive producer, is asking me if she can run a commercial. So let me, and then we have a caller. So
Okay.
Naima, which number? Naima, if you raise your hand, I'll open up your mic because I have quite a few people in the studio. I think you're the 347 number, but I need you to press 1. Otherwise, let me go to Kwame Sunhorse while we're waiting for Naima. Yeah. Kwame, your mic is open. I'll take you before we go to the break. Go ahead. You have a comment or question for Eva? Kwame Sunhorse, your mic is open. Can't hear
What was
you.
that question?
Well,
yeah, I can hear you.
I opened up the mic. Kwame Sunhorse is one of our elders he actually does sweat lodges, and he has been teaching in the Native American community and the Native American tradition. So his mic is open, and I'm going to let him comment or ask a question, whichever he prefers. Go ahead, Kwame.
Yeah, good evening, Sister Viata, and good evening, Eve. And thank you for sharing and transparency of your journey. And, the tools that you used and to regain yourself, and we call Hamblecha, that's what we call the Vision Quest. 4 days and 4 nights with no food or water and out in nature. And the lodge and the other parts of your inner journey, because this is where you have to find that person that has been traumatized by the things outside of himself, and to bring yourself back into who you really are. And the condolences for your 2 children, because no parent wants to bury their child. Because I know the feeling I had when I held my mother taking her last breath. And we have that part of the physical connection. As a mother, a man can never know the feeling of a mother, because she had that child to grow in her, and then she has to return it to the earth. That that child was supposed to return her to the earth, not the mother turning the child to the earth. So these are traumas that you've gone through, and I'm thankful to the Creator for His guidance to guide you back into who you are to be and become. And thank you for giving us these lessons, because what you shared is for all who's going to be able to hear through this techno-spiritual transmission how to guide themselves back into the divine intelligence in which we all are.
And you're muted, Eva.
Thank you.
Okay. Were you able to hear Kwame?
Yes, I was.
So he calls it Hambucha, what you went through for 4 days. Are you familiar with Kamblecha? I'm sorry. Kamblecha. Are you familiar with that term?
Well, for what we do is the Tlilancalco. It's the same thing, but it's just a different language.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
Nahuatl. Pinche
Yeah.
madre.
So what we're gonna do is take another break. Naima Latif, our executive producer, is in the studio. I'm gonna open up her mic. Let's see, and then we have a caller. When we come back, we'll open up another mic. Thank you, Kwame, for your encouraging and wise words. And Naima Latif, your mic is open if you'd like to play some commercials for us. And we just thank all of you for being here.
Is Monday morning struggle to get out of bed into the swing of things? Well, don't worry, you are not alone. Join us for thought-provoking, stimulating, and conversations on higher learning with Zelda Speaks for your Monday morning mindfulness session on Blog Talk Radio, The Female Solution, Mondays, 7:30 until 9 a.m. Be sure and send your ideas, thoughts, comments, and suggestions. Also, if you'd like to be a guest on the show, visit ZeldaSpeaks.com and send us your info. We'd love to have you. Experience mindfulness moments with the mindfulness/stress relief coach, Zelda Speaks. And thanks for sharing the mindfulness moment tip of the day. Stay on purpose, stay empowered, and stay tuned to your next session of mindfulness on higher learning with Zelda Speaks. Make it a mindful day. And thanks for listening.
We have an opportunity to transform the whole global society in the next 50 years. 50 years from now, the earth will be populated by a new generation of adults, many of whom are yet unborn. Our mission is to nurture them in childhood with love, guidance, and protection, and to raise them in healthy, happy families. If we impart values of compassion, generosity, and respect for in the next generation of children, they will create a world where people can live together in peace. This is our goal. Be a part of the transformation. Get your copy of the book, The Female Solution. The www.naimalatif.com. That's www.naimalatif.com.
I'm Beata, your holistic life coach. These days, it's more important than ever to work on your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Are you consciously breathing deeply in stressful moments? Do you have a plan or daily routine to maintain balance in your awesome body? Are you struggling to be disciplined in your eating habits? When you partner with me, I'll help you develop a personalized health plan that works for your particular lifestyle. You can find out more about me at yourholisticlifecoach.com, where you can also review my 3-step protocol to guide you to abundant health. That's yourholisticlifecoach.com, and I'm Beata.
And we are back. Thank you for joining us tonight. We have Eva with us, who is sharing her very, very personal but powerful testimony about losing children, or should we just say saying goodbye to the children we birthed, because they're not lost for sure, and they have just gone into an invisible state. Now, do you feel like your children are with you sometimes?
Yes, they're constantly with me. But I do want to say something, because we were talking about the body and how important the body is and how it should never be dismissed. Because we're not just a soul in a body, but it's all of them together. The body, the mind, the soul, everything is when it's integrated as one, this is really important because through my experience, what I've realized is, yes, my children are still with me. Yes, they're constantly here. Yes, they're constantly talking to me and guiding me and walking with me. They're here. My spirit knows this. My spirit feels this. I sense them, I all these things. However, my body also is a conscious being. The atoms, we're all made of atoms, and the atoms have consciousness. And the atoms, they all have vibration, and they all sing. And so our whole bodies are made up of these atoms, and they all have this essence. So our bodies are alive. If not, how could my body have brought me back? How could it have had this knowing to bring me back? So my it's not to say to the body, no, shut up, sit down, you don't mean anything, because the body does mean something. It has a feeling, it has a knowing, it has a needing, a yearning. So yes, my sons are here, but my body misses them. My body misses their touch, it misses their smell, it misses their sight, it misses their voice, it misses these things. And so it's okay to let the body mourn. So yes, we can conceptualize, we can know, yeah, the energies, they change, they're here, they're still here, they're in everything, there's all of these things. But the body, it needs that time to grieve, and it needed me to be its mother and to say, here, come here. Because as I was saying before, in one of my vision journeys, I went down into the basement, a deep, dark, damp basement, and I found my child's body, my body, my as a child, laying there, curled up, naked and beat and bruised and battered, in very cold and dying on the basement floor. And as my body was about to take its very last, like, exhale, I came in and I picked myself up, and I carried myself up these stairs, and I nurtured my body back to life. I nurtured my child, my soul, back to life. It's very much a connected journey together. And so every component of the being must be considered and must be nurtured. So it's nurturing my child. It's being there, it's being a support, it's being a mother, it's being a father to myself. And so
Well,
my body, I listen to it.
and those are and what it sounds like you're saying is you were nurturing your inner child, which is always with us. I can remember, sometimes it feels like, did I really experience that as a child? And yet you are describing to us the present experience you were having. It wasn't like you were in the past, but you're actually describing something that happened in that moment. You were experiencing your inner child, which is so often the therapy that coaches or psychiatrists give or express with their customer or their patients, to go into that place where your inner child is, talk to your inner child. And you did that without seeing what, a therapist or a psychiatrist or any of that, right?
No, because my body woke up and guided me.
Yeah, yeah. That's a very powerful presence of the Most High, the Creator inside of you.
Yes.
It's like you have such an intimate relationship now with Source, with Creator, because there aren't many people who can do that on their own, to go into that place and and even hug your inner child and
Yeah.
talk to your inner child. Sometimes you see in articles, what would you say to your younger self? They ask you to heal your present self, or what would you say to your 9-year-old self? And that's what you were just describing for us. You were talking to the younger you, because there was something missing in your childhood
Mm-hmm.
that you needed to go back in that moment and say to that child how much you really love them, or
Yes.
whatever the message is, you needed to comfort. It sounds like you
I
needed.
needed not only that, one, I needed to show myself that I could trust myself
Wow.
because
Yeah.
I had made so many decisions in my life that were damaging,
Right.
that
Right.
hurt myself,
Yes.
that I needed to regain a rapport with
Yes.
myself.
Yes.
So I needed to show myself. So after the body was brought back, um after I was able to nurture myself back to life, well, then there's the psychological, then there's that spiritual. And so what what I had to go through was I had to start to trust myself.
Yes.
I had to start to tell myself. So I learned how to read better because
Mm-hmm.
I did this. So I would read, but when I would read, I would keep reading one sentence over and over because I was like, I don't know what it said. What did it just say? I'm not understanding what it's saying. And I would read one sentence 20 times. And then when I said, you know what? I trust you. I trust that you know exactly what you're reading, and I trust that you can comprehend and you can retain. And so I would just start reading, and every time I tried to go back, I would tell myself, I trust you. You know exactly what's being read here. You know exactly what it says, and you know you can retain everything. And so each time I that's how I started. And each time I just reassured myself, you know, I trust you. You know. And so that was one of the first steps. And then from there, I started doing things to build integrity, to build honor, to build respect with myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because I fear more my subconscious r- than I fear anything else. So I have to have honor, and I have to have integrity, and I have to have respect, and I have to have trust, and I have to have love with myself. And in order to do that, I need to walk this way. I need
Yes.
to be this way. I need to act this way. And I need to show myself each and every time. I need to show up for myself. I
Yes.
need to make the right decision that, you know what? I put myself in a lot of positions, and I got into different relationships that hurt me, that were domestic violence and things like that. I put myself into different positions that hurt me. So I had to go back and I had to say, you know what? I'm sorry. I put you, because that was one of the most heartbreaks that I had when I was going through this process, was that I had let my own self down. I had hurt myself by deciding to put myself in these positions. And so I said, you know what? I'm sorry. And I will never put you into this position again. And I will take care of you every time. And you can trust me. And I will be there to protect you and honor you. And so as I started building these relationships with myself, then I started to build that rapport, and I started to love myself even more and more and more.
That is so key to healing disease. Okay. We're talking mostly about grief and loss and losing your physical presence because of the grief. But what people need to hear right now, if they have any type of imbalance in their body, whether it's cancer or inflammation, what you are sharing is so important to heal even that you talk to yourself, which is, in my opinion, a conversation with the creator. You're
Yes.
talking,
Yes.
you are so conscious about what the creator is asking of us to do. And so many people are looking to religion or a book for the solution to whatever their body is going through. And what you're describing, Eve, is really to me the key to healing not just grief, but disease. Have you felt that way? Have you shared
Yes.
that level of wisdom with friends that this is how you heal anything, not just grief, but talking to
Yeah.
this sacred temple? How have you been? You are so aware of that, I would imagine.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. When I was 7 years old, my stepfather, he picked me up by my hair and he punched me in the middle of my spine and he drop kicked me and he broke my tailbone. And my entire life, I had issues with my hips, with my back, with being able to walk. Sometimes I would just drop and I would have to drag myself. Sometimes I would have to drag my right leg. I couldn't walk. I'd take a step with my left leg and I drag my right leg. And eventually I ended up in a wheelchair. And I couldn't even sit in the wheelchair without using my arms as a support because my back could not hold me. And I had to have a lot of help. And so by going through this process of healing, by going through this process of talking to myself, by going through this process of looking as an objective observer at these different supposed mistakes that I've made,
Right,
but
right.
then looking at them as an objective observer instead of as a judge and jury,
All right
then I
now.
was able to understand what was going on and I was able to start making switches and changes here and tweaks there. And I was able to heal myself. I have no problems now. I think since 2018, I have no more problems with my back. I dance and I when I dance, so I'm when I dance, I jump and I twirl and I do all kinds of stuff and I have no problems.
And what do you attribute that to mostly? If you could say the top three things in that you've done that have brought you to a place of being disease free, pain free, what would you say the top three choices you've made to balance your body?
Um, Grace,
Hmm.
pure and unconditional love.
Hmm.
And I don't mean like people get weird when you say unconditional love, but just pure, true, unconditional love, grace, and and with that comes that what I was explaining earlier, that freedom of curious exploration in the scientific method of life. Just being able to not see failure, but to be able to see, oh, well, this didn't work, so let me try this. Oh, well, that didn't work, let me try this. And just keep on tweaking things like the scientific method instead of holding that guilt. So, release of guilt.
And always, and you, like you said, keep trying new. Were you trying the same old thing over and over and over again, or did you
No,
decide I'm going to let that go and try this? I'm going to let
well,
that go. Let's try
isn't
this.
that the definition? What they call that, the definition of what is it?
Insanity.
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 Insanity, when you keep trying the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. No, that's a scientific method. You have to keep trying something new.
So you experience that wholehearted, I mean, fully, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I don't look at anything as failure. Maybe people say, "Oh, what's happening here? What's happening there?" And they think I should be some kind of way. Well, you know what? They don't know my journey. Only I know my journey. So I'm walking ahead in my journey and I know where I'm going. I know where I came from. I know where I'm at and I know where I'm going. So every time I come somewhere, I look, okay, one, where's the east? The sun comes up in the east and it sets in the west. So that means that the south is over here and the north is over here, because when we do our ceremonies, then we open to the east, we turn to the west, we go to the south, and we go to the north. And there's different elements within these different directions. So how do you call that? I'm not quite sure in English. I always forget, but ubicarme. Um, I always find my 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 standing. I always find my direction, my ground, where I'm at, wherever I go, because I've traveled a lot since I started this journey.
You mean traveled around the country?
Yeah.
Okay. We've got another caller. Let's see, where'd they go? Naima 319457. Did she drop 3194? Okay, Naima. I don't see your number in the studio. Someone says that it seems like Facebook has gone down, but I still see um, people in the. Your Facebook Live went down. Okay, Craig, if you're listening, you can go to my YouTube channel. I think that's still live. Viata's Tiny House Village. And then Naima, I don't see you in the studio, Naima. So I think you're gonna have to call back in. But let me just read a few more comments here because we did have. I think I missed. Naima said it sounded like you described a near death experience. Would you say that's what you went through, a near death
Yeah,
experience where you
I
just
would.
totally left your body?
I would, because my body was here, but I was not. I was in the valley of death. I was there. I became very intimate with it. That's why it doesn't scare me, because I know what it looks like. I know what it feels like. And it actually feels like being in a womb. It's comforting.
And yeah, that's pretty accurate description, being in a womb. And then isn't that Indy says you're a strong woman. She
Thank
says I would not have made it. You
thank
have
you.
people tell you that they could not go what you went through.
I have. I have a friend who showed himself earlier. He had two friends that actually lost their children, and they passed away. The mothers, they died from the having that had that experience.
Well, that's what happened to my sister because her daughter was hit by a car at the age of 14, and that was her only child. And she went into deep grief. 2 years later, she had breast cancer. So that
Mm,
was my journey to learn about what German New Medicine. Behind me, I have this huge chart, and I learned about that because of my sister's diagnosis with breast cancer um, after her child died. And that's what can happen to a woman or even a man because of the deep grief. The cells of the breast begin to multiply
mm-hmm.
and try and help. It's actually a survival mechanism. The cells
Yes.
are multiplying in a metaphorical way or spiritual way to provide milk for the brain that says, "I've lost my child. I've lost my child." So yes,
Yes.
mothers, parents will die after the death of their children because of the grief that you are talking about is unprocessed.
Mm-hmm. Unprocessed. That's why I told myself you have to look, because I was like, I don't want to look. I don't want to look. And that is something. It's called descatlipoca. There's different, like I talk about the directions and our altars when we dance and do ceremonies. But there's in the north is Tezcatlipoca, and that is the color black, and it is the land of the dead. And Tezcatlipoca is the internal self. It's the internal mirrors, and many times they're smoked over. They're smoky. Remember, I had talked about at the beginning being in a world of fog.
Yes.
So it's like you can't see. You're like, so when we have a dance, and when we dance we cover our face like this, and our foot is bent like this, it's crooked. It's because we're drunk because we don't see what's going on. We don't want to see. We don't want to see. And so we cause havoc in our life, and we cause havoc in the lives of others. And so it's important. So there's even a song, there's a dance, and there's a concept. So connects with the body, the mind, and the soul. It's important to have that alignment when we're healing, because maybe we do something with our mind, maybe we do something with our soul, maybe we do something with our body, but if we don't have it all in alignment, we're going to have a disease in our body because our body holds it.
Thank you, sister. Thank you, sister. The word alignment is key, because the creator is giving us opportunities to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Every circumstance, we are being given opportunities to grow. And if we go into these low vibrating, low energy emotions of grief and unforgiveness, guilt, anger, then the alignment is off. It's like being out in a chiropractor's office and he says, whoa, you need an adjustment because you're so off, you're way over to the left. That's what's happening in our bodies when we don't process, like you said, the grief, the unforgiveness, and the guilt. We've got a caller, Naima Latif. Her mic is open. And so, Naima, do you want to open up the mic of the caller? Your mic is open. 319-346-457. Yeah. Naima, your mic is open. Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, is this Kufi?
Oh, hello, ladies. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Welcome. Do you have a question or comment for Eve?
Both. I want to give her condolences for her children. I was going to ask her maybe to repeat their names, or also, I'm a reincarnated child. I found out my grandfather was a bishop over California in the 50s, and I didn't know him, and I looked just like him, identical nose, head, big head, eyes, everything, and said, "No, James, you're a reincarnation." I was like, "What?" And his name is Benjamin. He played the harp. I played the harp. I found this out 3 years ago. 18 years ago, I named my son Benjamin. Do not know my grandfather's name. So yes, reincarnation does exist. That's why I haven't pretty much called, and I've been going to kind of self therapy. Church gives us a healing of our bodies. It's like a baptism with going down underwater, crucifying your flesh, and then comes the spirit. So there's not too many spiritual counselors or spiritual psychologists, because the number one spiritual counsel, and you said it earlier, is our inner child. Our inner child. That's what guides us. The inner voice. When we dream, that inner voice. Go on vacation and travels. So I was going through my family situation. I said, why did my grandfather bring me back? My mother's father bring me back from California. I never knew that. Went into my dream, met my grandfather. He told me, I brought you back to the Midwest from California to live with your brother. I got it. So I was just going to ask her, dreaming, because we all are in a dream state because we go to bed, right? And it's funny, we lay down just like they lay down people in caskets. So we die daily. And I was going to ask her, what was her children's favorite plant, a tree, something in nature that they like to do? And I would say, go put something on there, a rock on that area to honor them, so that they can visit you and they can guide you, because there is no death.
Okay.
That's a physical word.
Did you hear all that, Eve?
Yes.
What were your sons' names?
Angel Calixto and Antonio Ramon.
Okay, I got the Antonio. And what was the other one?
Angel is it's Angel. Angel.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And Antonio.
Did you hear what he said about plants or trees? Did they have favorite plants or trees? What do you remember what they were?
Yeah, I don't live in the same areas, but my oldest son, he loved water. We used to have irrigation days, And every time there was an irrigation day, you open the floodgate, and the whole entire yard fills with water. And he loved those days, and he would just play, and we'd play in there. And there was a ditch, and he'd see it, and he'd get so excited, and he'd run really fast. So I'd always he was not fearful of anything. And so he would run to the water. I'd have to watch him very much. And I connect much with the water. My other son, he just loved parks. He loved all kinds of parks. We went all kinds of places, and he really loved doing that. I have their ashes with me, and I do, when I travel, I do go and I take their ashes, and I put them in natural places, and I put like herbs, I put different medicines, and put different rocks and different things, crystals and things.
We've got another lady in the studio, Mama Az, who you probably are familiar with. I'm going to open up her mic. Mama Az, your mic is open.
Can you hear me, Dr. V?
Yes, go ahead.
Greetings, family. I'm about to cry. You, Brother Kofi, thank you for those wisdom words that you said. And greetings, Brother Kwame. Brother Kwame, I want to ask you about Palenque. Can you get us up to speed on Palenque? It's very important, but I need to say this first. Miss Eva, you brought back memories about the irrigation, opening up the irrigation waters, because that's what we used to do as little children on the reservation out in Yuma and different places. And it brought back memories, golly. But I want to say to you that George is here. Family, George is a friend of mine who's on the other side. And Cynthia Marie Williams, Minister Cynthia Marie Williams, she's here too. And Miss Eva, George had you to call me when I was in communication with him. So we got to get you to Palenque, because that is adjacent with that house. But I need you to know, he wants you to know, he specifically brought you to his house there in Bisbee, Arizona, to be a part of what you are a part of now, this show. George came to see me when I was at Miracle Valley in that tent for 14 days. And he brought me my dad's obituary and my gum and a jug of water and some catnip. And he told me part of what you are speaking about now is healing. And I am so grateful for you, Dr. V. I am so grateful for you, Miss Eva, for calling me, because sometimes when I hear things, like when George was there at Miracle Valley with me, you know what happened? He and Minister Williams and Reverend A.A. Allen was in communication with George at that resting spot in Miracle Valley. And thank you, baby, for confirming some things that I actually thought I was losing my mind. Family, she is trying to raise money to get to Palenque. She needs to go in order to be able to come back and help the women who are just waiting for what she is doing on this show today. So I don't need to say anything else.
Thank you.
Brother Kwame, I need you to get us up to speed on Palenque.
Okay, you need
Thank
to
us.
call. You
Thank
need,
you.
the sister. You need to call Brother Kwame because he dropped off the studio, and maybe you could call him and have him come back. And I have pulled up Palenque because I didn't know anything about it. So I'm gonna let Eve explain to us what this beautiful. I'm gonna just enlarge it for a minute, Eve, so people can see what Palenque is, and it's pyramids, right? So explain
Yes.
to Eve, explain to our listeners what is the significance of this place, and tell them about your GoFundMe page that you have, so that we can all maybe help you out in this area.
Well, there's so right now we're in the prophesied time of the reuniting of the condor and the eagle. So the condor is the south, and the eagle is the north. And so the condor's like the feminine goddess reawakening and coming up and connecting with the masculine, the eagle. So it's like the divine masculine and feminine coming together. And so it's a big gathering of the tribes down there, and there's going to be a week-long there's going to be ceremonies going on there, and there's going to be elders there, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities to learn from our elders, because as our elders are getting older, and maybe they're leaving us in the physical, well, the knowledge and the wisdom that they carry within also goes with them. And so as part of just learning from them and being able to integrate even more with that and heal even more depths of my soul with that, to be able to then go and help others heal in those ways as well, and share that, because that's how we've kept these sacred knowledges alive over all of this time, these ancient profound knowledges, because there's this thing, it's called Xitontequisa Senyalitztli, and that means the silent work in Nahuatl. And what happened was, when the Spanish came, then they told the people, you can no longer dance your dances. You can no longer sing your songs. You can no longer do these things that you do. You can no longer have your names. You can no longer have your hair. You can no longer have these things. And if they were caught dancing, they would be killed, or feet cut off, or singing, their tongues cut out, or, different things. And so people would gather together in private homes, and they would dance and carry on the ceremonies, and carry on the sharing of oral traditions and things like this. And before the Spanish came, so we have these things there. So I tell you, I'm a dancer. So we put these things on our ankles when we dance. Let me get this really quick here. Let's see.
That's on your ankle, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
See, this goes on my ankle, one on each foot. So I have I made this. So I have my dream catcher here that represents the moon, and you see you have the stars in the sky. And so before the Spanish came, all of these seed pods, they used to be golden bells. So I put golden bells on mine and seed pods. But the Spanish took all the gold, and they took away all the permission they took away, you can't dance. So it was when our grandfathers would gather and dance and share, because dancing, it's not just dancing. The body is singing. It's a prayer. It's a prayer. It's an offering. It's and so to be able to dance is a gift. And so they would dance in silence. They would dance in silence, and it became an honor later on in later years when we were able to dance in the open again and make noise when we're dancing, because the vibration, it makes a noise. The ceremony when we dance is not just a dance. It's 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 a prayer, and it's going up, and generating energy, and it's a frequency. And so to be able to dance, and then to be able to have these, to when we dance is an honor. And so there's that. So that's what it's called, Shitontakisa Senjalitzli, the silent work. And it's carried on from generation to generation, and that's why it hasn't been lost completely. But so now it's these elders are coming together, and they're coming from different tribes, and they're sharing their knowledge, they're sharing their wisdom, and they're sharing their healing, and they're sharing their unity and gathering. And this also, there's also been Lakota and everything from up here in the US go down there. And there's a person who films documentaries. He's going and filming our grandfathers and what they're saying, and to share with the world, so it's not lost. And just taking that back, and eventually spreading even up more into more tribes in the US, because the north is the eagle. So it's connecting, it's making that connection. And in the center is the hummingbird. And so anyways, this is a really important time in our history, and it's the awakening and awareness of this consciousness, conscious awareness, because people are awakening all over the world. They're going through something kind of like I went through. They're going through that recapitulation process, but it's not an easy process. And if you don't know what you're going through, and you don't have somebody who knows what they're going through, because I've gone to counseling, I've gone to these different things, and it's not the same. They couldn't take me through my process. They didn't know what it was, and they didn't know how. And so that's why I pretty much did that on my own. And it was from this knowing. And so when people are going through this process, it's a very confusing time. It's a very hard time. It can be a very destructive and confusing time. And maybe people can't handle it. Maybe they let themselves go. Maybe they don't have to. Maybe if they have somebody to help to guide them, and help them through this awakening process.
So what is I believe Brother Kwame is back, and maybe he can also share some information about Palenque. Kwame, are you there?
Yes, and thank you, Mama AZ, and greetings, Brother Kufi. The thing that she's sharing is that we did in 2009, and they had what was called the gathering of the return of the ancestors. That's where the eagle or condor in 2009, and then 2015 we did the eagle, the condor, and the quetzalcoatl. These were the prophecies that the ancients, our ancestors, left. The Mayans, the Inca, the Kogis came down from the Andes to tell little brother that we're messing up, and Pachamama. And what the prophecy says is that the condor has to bring the waters of Lake Titicaca, and the Hopi bring the maize from the corn, and they have to be returned to the Grand Canyon. And this is what the celebration was for 10 days there in Sedona, Arizona. And we brought the elders, medicine people from around the world. We had the Tibetans, the Aborigines, the Chinese, even the people that Inuits and from Greenland. All of the elders came in to give us the prophecy, because the time of 2012 came, and that was the end of the calendar. And the other part was, and you see that step pyramid. That step pyramid has 9 levels that we have gone back, and we're now at the 9th level of this new, what we call a galactic year. We made the 26,000-year journey around the Milky Way. And these are things in which our ancestors knew, and the time of the prophecy has been brought that they have to give us the guidance of the ancient messages that have been left. And it's more so written in the pyramids and the glyphs and in the writings, because even Grandma Margarita of the Olmec and Don Alejandro, who was one of the elders, and they came and they guided us through ceremonies and the things in which we had to do to make to this next level. And what my sister is speaking of, in the journey of the dark night of the soul, that's when you go into the underworld, into that part of the world in which the unknowns and things that trouble has caused you disease and discomfort in your life. It's like the movie Where Dreams May Come, when he had to go and his wife committed suicide to shadow into hell and bring her back. Yes. And these are the things that we do when you talk about going in and meeting that inner child. We as an adult have to go inside to grip the child and grab that child's hand and guide that child, because other people in the time that we were children did not do the guiding that we needed. So now we have to trust in our inner self and saying that me as a man, little boy that's inside of me, and say, it's going to be okay. I'm not going to allow anyone to do what was done to you. I'm going to help and be the man that you need in your life to guide you into manhood. These are the transformations in which we have to go, because we're now in a cosmic consciousness shift, that we're in this part of our Milky Way galaxy we haven't been in 26,000 years, and there's a consciousness that is evolving us from a Homo sapien to a Homo spiritus. And these are the ways in which ancestors left these messages in writings, in the sundials, in the Medu Neter, in Kemet. All of these were left in order for tools to guide us. That's what the prophecy is saying, is that they project what is to come in this next evolution of our becoming Homo spiritus instead of Homo sapiens.
Before the show goes off Blog Talk, Eve, I want you to give your GoFundMe page information, so this will be in the archives.
How do I do that?
Just speak it. Can you just
okay.
What's the name on it? What's the name on it?
90 seconds.
Oh, my phone's dead. I have it on my phone. I don't know what. You don't have a recording or anything? It's gonna be on YouTube. Can I put it underneath the chat?
Yes. We can always add it on the YouTube page later,
okay.
or even Facebook. But I wanted it to be on Blog Talk. But that's okay. We can always put it on YouTube or Facebook. So no problem. Well, we're at the end of the show. I am just so grateful to you, Eve, for spending this time with us, and you have just really blessed everyone here. I see John Harris says, I love that about the ashes. Yeah, everybody loved that about the ashes. And then, hey, sister, it's Craig. Craig is another brother with a lot of Native American experience and language conversation. He says, condor of the earth and eagle of the earth, deep. And someone else said, he says, I enjoyed this show. Thank you, Craig. We always enjoy having your energy here as well. as well as all of you who have joined us.
10 seconds.
Eve, any last words for us? Because any last words or advice, especially for those who are struggling with their health? What would you want? What wisdom would you want to leave with us for those who are struggling with maybe their health or inflammation in their body? What would you advice would you give?
I would just say, I love myself anyway. I love myself anyway. I want to say something really quick.
Go
It's
ahead.
it's a song. I'm I may not sing it, but it's called "The Song of Love," and it's in Nahuatl. And it can be romantic, but I can see love in any form for anybody.
Yes.
So, Shikiyewa in Xochitl, Shikiyewa in Panoyolotl, Pampani Mitzla Sotla, Pampani Mitzla Sota Ikanuchino Yolot. That the lyrics are, what keep this heart safe in your heart. I mean, sorry, guard this flower, guard it in your heart, because I love you, because I love you with all of my heart. So this has been a beautiful flower unfolding right here amongst us, and we share this love of, right in this flower, the petals, and to hold it into our hearts always, forever, in love. Nimix la sotla ikanuchino yolat. I love you with all of my heart.
Oh, that is so beautiful. I got chill bumps just hearing that. That is some energy. That's some love energy that's coming through very strong from you, my sister. I consider you my sister. And we say thank us, united souls, united spirits. We can all say thank us.
Thank
And
us.
so you can either go to my YouTube. Why don't you just text me the GoFundMe page, and I'll make sure it gets in the YouTube description as well as on the Facebook page for this show. And
Okay.
even Blog Talk, I'll go there. I'll make sure your GoFundMe information gets to all the platforms that we were on this evening.
Thank you. Thank
I
you so
sure,
much.
I think I need to go to Palenque after looking at all those pictures. I need a vacation. When
Let's
is when is
go.
it happening? When do you want to go?
The I want to leave on the 16th and come back on, I think the first, either the 31st or the 1st
The
of
16th of
March. I mean,
March.
yeah, the 16th of March I would leave, because I'm going to be dancing in the St. Patty Days parade here in Denver on the 5th, on the 16th. There's going to be a powwow the 15th, 16th, and 17th, and opening prayers on the 15th. But so I want to leave after I dance on the 16th, so I can get there, because the ceremony starts on the 17th. And yeah, so I want to leave on the 17th. I mean, leave on the 16th, sorry.
Okay, so we're gonna say, and so it is.
And so it
It,
is.
and so it is,
And
and it's gonna
Tlazo
happen.
Kamati. Tlazo Kamati. Thank you very much.
And thank us. We are very, very grateful to have spent this time with you, and we're feeling the love energy as we leave. And so, everybody, take this love energy with you. So many comments. Really great show from John. I enjoyed this show from Craig, and very grateful for this sharing. Very hopeful on many levels. That's Noel Palette. Yeah, I think we're all just leaving 2 hours with you, my sister, and all you feel is love and gratitude. So you're just gonna have to come back again.
Yeah, I will, with very
Oh,
much
we
glee.
all need this love and gratitude. Just
Yeah,
loving ourselves more because Eve has spent this time with us. So
yeah, because when I died, I was able to see life. Without death, we cannot understand life. And so without that, I couldn't understand that flower of love as deeply as I do. I cannot see the colors as vibrant as I do.
yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Love you, sister.
Love
Mwah.
you.
Have a beautiful evening and a beautiful week, and we'll talk again soon.
Yes, thank you so much. I enjoyed being here with all of you. Thank you.
And the same here. We're going to play our farewell greeting, closing, thanking all of our global family now.
We've come to the end of our show today, but you can hear every show in the archives at www.blogtalkradio.com/the-female-solution. You can also hear today's show on the Female Solution Facebook page. Go to www.facebook.com/the-female-solution. Leave your comments about today's show. You can always reach me on my website at www.naimalatif.com. That's www.naimalatif.com. Watch our TV shows, listen to our radio shows, order our books, and be sure to get your copy of the book, The Female Solution. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussion. And to our global family listening from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, sheshe.
Sheshe.
India, zanyaba.
Zanyaba.
Japan, arigato.
Arigato.
Korea, kamsamnida.
Kamsamnida.
Russia, spasiba.
Spasiba.
Germany, danke.
Danke.
Poland, jeonkunyong.
Jeonkunyong.
France, merci.
Merci beaucoup.
Spain, gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Italy, grazie.
Grazie.
Egypt, shukran.
Shukran.
Ghana, medasi.
Madasi.
Nigeria, eshe.
Eshe.
South Africa, ngiyabonga.
Ngiyabonga.
Senegal, geret.
Geret.
Kenya, asante.
Asante.
Israel, toda.
Toda rabah.
Pakistan, shukriya.
Shukriyan.
Afghanistan, tashakur.
Tashakur.
Saudi Arabia, shukran.
Shukran.
Assalam alaikum wa
Assalam
rahmatullahi wa
alaikum.
barakatuh.
And we say to all my yogi friends, I say namaste and satnam and aloha, aloha. Stand strong, Lahaina. Well, you got this. Stand strong, Maui. Mwah. Love you all. Have a great week. And don't forget, tomorrow morning, Zelda will be here on the Female Solution Monday morning mindfulness. Shalom.